that is most likely not something that you are happy with at all, but please be courteous. They're going to come in a few minutes because they were waiting on the Cuban exile folks to arrive. In the meantime, we want to thank our host, the Gabriel Hotel, and I'm going to let Neil say a couple words.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say hello and welcome you to the Gabriel Hotel. If you haven't been here before, welcome for the first time. I work very closely with the marquee residents here, and collectively we try to make the 1100 Biscayne Boulevard building really special between the hotel and the residential side. So keeping that partnership up within this building and then having a partnership with the buildings all nearby is really paramount to the success of both our restaurant and the hotel. Right? I know that some of you have places that you live close to here, and if you have family or friends coming in from out of town, we'd love to help you out by having them stay here at the Gabriel. And of course, we have our restaurant Cultura here downstairs, which is excellent. We have an excellent chef, Chef Fabian. So if you haven't been here before, give us a try when you get a chance and you're back in the area. We left some collateral on the chair for you, a little give back, a little percentage off, and then a little information about our New Year's Eve party that we're having as well, so in case you're interested. But I just wanted to take a minute and welcome you here and let you know that we can host any kind of event that you might be looking to do as well. We've got a great team at your disposal, so enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Hasselmeyer. He's going to do the presentation of the Wave Hotel and Observation Wheel. It is an interactive meeting. By that I mean you do not need to hold your question till the end of his presentation. Do ask them along. Obviously, if it's something that he was going to talk about, he'll let you know so. Otherwise, he will answer your questions as he presents.
Thank you. You can't hear me in the back?
Should probably turn this music off.
Maybe the music is...
Talk
music
house.
might soften my voice.
Expression.
Well, like Amal said, thank you, Amal, for the introduction. I'm Haskell Meyer, just a lifelong resident of South Florida, Miami Beach. First of all, thank you all for coming on this rainy night. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate you all being here to listen to what we are working on and what we've been working on for a number of years, and trying to listen to all the stakeholders. And that is why I'm here, to explain the project and what we've done, what we intend to do, and where we're headed from here. As many of you know, the city has evolved. We've become an international destination. Let's, if you will, Kenny, let's start with first. This is not what we're doing. We're not building a Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel was developed in the late 1800s by George Ferris, and they've been around for over 100 years. And we're not building a tall skyscraper, a block of a building here in Miami. Go ahead, Kenny. To our building. What we are going to build is the most unique building in the world. The first building to get a U.S. patent since 1913. I worked on this for 7 years. It took me a long time to figure out the center of mass of the building. If you notice, the building looks like a wave. It's a tremendous cantilever, and it's really form follows function to support the world's largest observation wheel, which we intend to build here, taller than the Singapore Flyer, taller than the London Eye, taller than the London Eye by about 150 feet. So at the tallest point, it's It's going to be about 555 feet. The structures that hold up, and one of the reasons we were able to patent this, I have one partner in this project. His name is Cyril Silberman. Cyril Silberman is a world-renowned mechanical engineer who holds almost 25 patents worldwide. And I'm going to jump to the next slide where I'll talk about who our team is. We've been involved in the erection of the London Eye when Mitsubishi failed. Our team, along with the Landia, came in and erected the London Eye. We've done the Dallas Cowboys Stadium roof. My partner Cyril I hold the patents on this building that I just showed you, but my partner Cyril Silberman holds the patents for the Cardinals Stadium, Phoenix Cardinals Stadium. I'm sure some of you are aware that the entire stadium slides out, right? The entire football stadium is on rollers. The Dallas Cowboys Stadium, the Marlins Roof Stadium, all the docking stations for NASA, all the docking stations for the space shuttle has all been designed by our team. The last project that we've done was Avatar for Disney. Let's go back to the building, if you will. What we're working on, and the reason that we were able to, part of the reason we were able to obtain the patents is because every observation wheel in the world, the larger ones, the ones that, I'm not talking about the carnival rides that are 150, 200 foot tall ones that are built in China and shipped here and erected. But every large observation wheel, most of the cost is in the bearings of the wheel. And what we've been able to do was reinvent the bearing system of the wheel and also take the cost out of the structure of the wheel by incorporating the towers that support that wheel. And by doing that, we've created a revenue generating mechanism to offset the cost. And what has that allowed us to do? That has allowed us to be able to include in this project about 80,000 square feet of museum space, which will be housing the Cuban Exile History Museum and the African American History Museum. In addition to that, we are going to create approximately 5 acres of additional green space which will tie into a museum park. All that while allowing the water to filter around in the basin. We are not filling the slip. We are not bringing any fill to fill this slip. This building, if you will, go to the ones, the previous one. The landmarks, previous. Some of you may be familiar with Santiago Calatrava's work in Seville, where the buildings float in the water. There are a lot of iconic buildings around the world. One of them is Moshe Safdie in Singapore. And many of these buildings were the inspiration for what we're going to do here. And that is, what we're going to do is one of the most iconic buildings in the world has been told to us by a number of people who have seen it so far. If you can go back to the building. So the building will spawn, if you will, out of the water. Mr. Nick Gutierrez and Mr. Bill Muir with the Cuban Exile History Museum.
Sorry if you're late. I apologize.
There will be connecting bridges to the park. There will be connecting bridges along the front of the building to connect Bay Walk. And there will be sufficient room on either side of the building to allow smaller yachts, approximately 100 feet, to come in and moor on either side of the building. The towers, just so you know, are very slender. They're about 45 feet, but they're separated by about 100 feet. So the clear view through them. If you notice, the building is quite set back from.
Do you have a rendering of that we can see face on?
Sorry?
Do you have a drawing where you can see that face on, the separation between
Yes.
the two
Let's go
towers?
to the aerial, please. I apologize, but this is not very clear here. The resolution is not good on the screen, but there are 2 towers here, 1, 2, and the space between them is approximately 90 feet. So there's a clear view in between them. Let's go back to the, I think, no, that one, sorry, that. If you notice, the space in between the towers is approximately 90 feet. Towers themselves are about 45 feet. Let's continue.
What is the intended occupancy of those buildings when they're
It's a
full?
hotel. And
Right.
I want to talk about that a little bit,
Okay.
the kind of hotel it is. And what we have contemplated is, really we want it to be a family-oriented destination hotel. Because we see a tremendous amount of synergy happening with the museums. By incorporating the Cuban Exile History Museum, the African American Museum, the Perez Art Museum, and the Science Museum, it is going to be a true destination to spend a day, spend a few days at the park. And like I said, we're increasing the park by almost 5 acres.
Where is the entrance going to be? Where is the road?
Sorry?
Where is your road to the
The
hotel?
entrance to the hotel.
The entrance to the hotel is on the west side. And the entrance falls on the west side. Go back to our original. The entrance is right here to the hotel.
The parking spaces.
Where is the road?
Pardon me?
What road is it?
There's a perimeter road right along on the south side.
South side of the boat slip
Correct.
is the entrance. Is that where, I'm trying to figure out where that is sitting. in
So is
relationship
it
with the boat slip.
adjacent to the arena?
It is, there's the arena right there.
Right.
So it's on the southern, it marries up to the southern side of the slip.
So currently the traffic on Biscayne on a game day
Sure.
is untenable, and on many other days is at a standstill.
Right.
And given that there would be people arriving by Uber and by rental cars and other forms of transportation, how do you not add to that traffic jam on Biscayne?
We will not add to the traffic jam. We found in our studies that there are currently existing number of people to support this project. Certainly people will come to the hotel. And can you go to the rooms for a moment while we flash on them? Certainly people will come to the hotel. You can come by foot, you can come by boat, you can come by train.
No, you arrive by, excuse me, you arrive by car or bus with your luggage.
Absolutely. You can be at the cruise port also come across.
Right,
With
by
a
a
taxi,
taxi or
by
an
water
Uber
taxi.
with, correct. And so the question that she was raising is the amount of additional traffic that is going to create.
It is not like the Miami Heat kind of traffic. And let me
I don't
explain.
think she was suggesting is that the Miami Heat. We're just suggesting that a hotel.
How many rooms is that? How many rooms?
We're contemplating about 450.
Okay, so then you've got the impact of 700 people that are coming in and out, although you said it's family oriented, so bring that up to 850. And now they're gonna have to be coming in and out on a regular basis. The destination of Miami, as you know, is multifaceted. Double beach, the park, that's lovely. Now they wanna go to Wynwood, so there's traffic that's gonna be created there, go to the beach traffic there. So the question that was raised is, how is the traffic gonna be handled? The additional traffic be handled on Biscayne Boulevard. There is no other access other than Biscayne Boulevard or through the park.
Well, there's a number of access points for us, and what we intend to do is is we're working on new technology also for water tanks, hybrid water tanks.
From the parking garage?
On the west side of, on the east side rather, of the building, there will be a water taxi service. And we are working, like I said, currently on a hybrid type of vessel that will ferry people in approximately 10 minutes, 50 at a time, from a slip through the channel to a port of call on the other end. So the
Which is lovely, you have 50 people going over there that are now going to be
depends on the
transportation.
per vessel.
Right, but again, you've got 50 people going over there, okay? They get off and do what? They then have to get additional vehicles in order to see them do anything. You get dropped off, that's your area, you're nowhere. But that's transportation in and out. For a Saturday night arrival, which would be a high occupancy day, you have people coming in, you've got a heat game or concert going on every weekend. You've got 2 performing arts centers across the street here with their traffic. You've got the residents and the people of downtown. You have the people coming to downtown. Where is this traffic going to be managed? There's only one way in, out for auto, surface traffic, and off of Biscayne Boulevard.
As I said, our studies show that the current population in downtown supports the wheel, and certainly there is an additional component of visitors to the hotel.
But then, we are forgetting the million of visitors for the Cuban Museum and the American Museum, which that will carry a lot of traffic, right? Bring a lot of extra traffic.
Right.
There will be additional people coming to this area.
Yeah, systematic, so I think, if I may say something, because we cannot analyze here the traffic, so we are residents here. Sure. The traffic is almost at the level of saturation. You can't duplicate the heat gauge and all this stuff, where police trying to protect people makes it worse, okay, they get too long. Please, you say you have studies, okay, I can give you a suggestion. I'm not disputing the studies, but I've seen studies done by people that can show you what you want to see, okay? One major issue for this project, no matter how marvelous it is from a technical point of view, is that this road cannot support more, cannot support what it has now. Okay? Once they're going to improve the traffic over to 95 with fluid, okay, they will have to get here. It's a major thing. Adding more interest area, because you're talking about the 400 people in this. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to know that if 100 of these people will take the car, because they're not going to get stuck in the hotel for the whole thing, to get out, it will be a nightmare of their experience, let alone the resident experience, because it's terrible. That's one. Number two, the wheel is not going to be a return, it's not going to show a return on investment only with the people in the hotel. So they will have to get, okay, so these people will come what? Not by taxi, not by this, they will come with a normal vehicle. So please take care of that, and if you want to progress nicely without, because it's an interesting thing to marvel, okay, I think you should make this study well and display it to the people so people can see and point to you what are the issues that the study aims, okay? Otherwise, here we're not going to solve it. The message is very clear. Don't add it, subtract people from going from here, then you will get any project that subtracts that will get you there. But adding, forget it. It's not going to help.
I am here to listen to your concerns. Okay. That's why we are showing you this project ahead of you, so that you are aware and we take your concerns in consideration.
I'm still trying to figure out where this thing sits. There is a slip which you say you're not filling in. So
That's
you're
right.
leaving the water, it's going to flow between.
It's going to be in the.
So there's a very small portion of sidewalk and the dock on
Yes.
both sides. And then you immediately have the road for the stadium, for the arena, and you immediately have the park. So how are you
The slip.
going to magically create more acreage of park when you're setting the structure on a very thin level, and so you're gonna have to have parking and, you know, a bunch of facilities and infrastructure to accommodate all these people. Where is it going? What's disappearing? Because I don't see the pumping station there, I don't see anything there that's to scale.
Do you have a site plan?
I'll get to it in one moment, if I may. The building is in the slip. The slip is 320 feet wide by almost 1,200 feet long, almost a quarter mile long. The building footprint is about 180 by 200. It sits on the western end of the slip. The building will be in the water. We are building the building in the water. There'll be a deck above the water, and water will access around the bottom of the deck, of the ground level deck.
So where's the additional parking?
Can I ask you two questions? Where are you in timing, and where are you in the approval process from the city of Miami to build something like this?
We have spoken to the commissioners, and we've gotten a favorable response. They would like to see an iconic project like this to find the skyline of Miami. In terms of construction, when we can begin construction, our plans are pretty much far along, that we can, within 6 months, be ready to pull a permit to design to begin construction.
So you may be ready to begin in 6 months. When will the city grant you the ability to do it?
This is something that we're still in discussions as we speak.
But how long will it take from start to end?
Sorry?
How long will it take from start to end?
We can finish this building within 30 months.
Regarding the museums,
Yes.
the frost, as you know, is non-sustainable.
And that's one of the things, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I will respond to this question by saying this. I know what you're reading.
Yeah, but if I may continue, please. The Cuban Museum, you must be aware that Freedom Tower it's extremely important for the Cuban community. That's a historical part of Cubans that moved to the United States or to Miami. They already have an exhibit, and why do you have to have another Cuban museum? If you're talking about art, the Pérez Museum has a great collection of Cuban artists, starting with Jorge Tellez. And they continuously have Cuban artists from the island and Cuban American artists. So what's the point of having another Cuban museum? In regards to the African American Museum, you have MoCA in North Miami, which is suffering economically and has some amazing exhibits on African American art, on Asian art. But why here? Why here?
Okay, number one, I just want to say that
Came here to Miami in October 21st, 1960. And as a matter of fact, the first place I came to is where the AAA sits today, because the sponsor that got me the residency was a gentleman that had a trailer working there at the time. So I'm very familiar with this area from all the way back. I'm also very familiar with the Cuban history. I went in the Bay of Pigs. I later on served in the U.S. Army. Had to serve 1 year in Vietnam. So I am very much a resident of Miami forever and ever. Miami does not have a place where the Cuban story is told. Pedro Pan is a story that needs to be told, because if you have not heard that story, it is, Pedro Pan, just to give you an idea, a Pedro Pan is the one who was the adopted father of Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon. So the impact of the Cuban community in Miami and all over needs to be told. needs to be told in a venue where people are going to come and visit, not just the Cubans, because Cubans know the story. We want the general public, the international public, to come and visit. And what better site than where the other two museums are at? In the perfect example of why museums thrive is in Washington, D.C. and the mall, because you have so many museums right next to the other, and people just migrate from one place to the other. I hope I answered your question.
Yes and no, because I'm very familiar with the Pedro
Why
Paz.
is that in this area? No, but I've been paying taxes much longer than most of them.
Whoa! The question is this. Whoa! We understand your point. It's very good. The question is why? Sure.
Yes and no, because I'm familiar with the Pedro Paz story.
Oh, it's okay. So I think, since this is an important area, like you said, for the people, everybody will say, if you solve the traffic problem, make it easier for everybody, you're welcome. If you don't, find another place. I think this is the message here. Be careful, because the traffic is killing everybody. So we understand that. We have to listen to that. I'm an immigrant like you, from a communist country like yours, okay, that happened to change earlier into a normal country. And so I know what you're talking about. I'm very much on your side. But we want people that will satisfy the owners of the building here, that their property is not going to go down, and the traffic is not going to make it impossible to live. It's already at the limit. That's what we are saying. And this is what we want to hear from this gentleman here. And I can suggest, if you do the rendering of the buildings, please take all the angles. Don't take the preferred angle the gentleman there mentioned. You took it, the one that shows the park, that shows the beautiful thing. For example, take the angle from the 900 or 888 view. See how many people will have the view obstructed. Okay? And then figure out how we're going to compensate them for loss in value, because view is the most
Absolutely not loss in value. I think an
I'm
increase in
sorry.
value.
I'm sorry, if I stay in my, apartment, don't tell me that it's good to see a building, no matter how nice it is, with a Ferris wheel, you can call it the way you want it, it's a Ferris wheel. Maybe
It's not a Ferris
it's a wheel that rotates with the cabins inside, okay? Let's take it the simple way.
And I want to answer
So, that's what I want to
what
say.
the gentleman at the back said. I am familiar with the story of Pedro Paz. There's a sculpture here on Biscayne Boulevard. Dr. Padron came as Pedro Paz, who is one of the most admirable Cuban people, or one of the most admirable people that live in Miami, because he created MTC. So, I am familiar with that story. Why do you need another museum when you have one at MOAD? And they have an exhibit on Pedro Paz, and they have an exhibit on on the Cuban diaspora. I do not understand that. I do not understand from where are you going to get your endowment?
What's MOAT?
What?
What is MOAT?
Museum of Art and Design, Freedom Tower.
Okay.
So if you're going to be in this museum, you should know.
Yes, sir.
You should know
Okay.
what museums
we
are in
have
the vicinity.
All right, very good. We have spent 15 years about exploring every potential site for a world-class, full-scale Cuban exile history museum. It first started as a Bay of Pigs museum in 2004. 2008, we got to a study by the county. The recession hit. We put it on hold. In 2011, we started again. We got a county resolution to build a museum on Parcel B and do a long-term lease with the county. We negotiated that lease. Then the composition of the county commission changed. They tried to move us to Museum Park. With the Museum Park too, we also spoke to the Miami-Dade College and Eduardo Padron to do it at the Freedom Tower. The footprint was not adequate. So we've been through a long journey on this. And right now, our best opportunity to get our museum built and funded is the Miami Wave. That's why we're part of this project.
So there's 1,000 reasons why we're part of this project. There's 1,000 reasons why it has not occurred anywhere else. There's a lot of reasons why the African Museum is also involved in this. And right now, this is the project that's being pitched. So we can talk more about Cuban, the nuance of Cuban history later. But that's why we're here, that's why we're involved, that's why we support this project.
Can I ask
No, I can
something?
tell that you support it.
We have a beautiful statue in front of 900 and 888, that I think is a Cuban statue, correct?
I'm sorry?
I'm sure
It's a
that...
statue, it's not a museum.
No, I'm asking, wait,
It's a
please,
statue.
please. There is a statue that the Cuban, because I think it's a beautiful piece of art, did several years ago between 900 and Marina Blue, that since the moment has been displayed over there, the following months was already falling apart. Piece of black marble was falling on the street. For 4 years, no one found $1 to fix the statue.
What does that have to do with the museum and the...
I want to understand how someone can, if they are not able to take care of one statue.
That's why we're doing this, so that we can take care of many statues. That's why we're doing
We
this.
start well.
That's why we're doing
Okay,
this.
what?
Don't lay that at our feet, that's not our responsibility.
Not the matter,
I'm finished.
sorry, we're running.
With which money we fix the statue at the end? With the money from the
But the
from
issue-
private.
But the, excuse me.
No one was able to maintain a statue.
I'm not sure
The
that's...
issue is that
I would just like to
found
show
out
you.
is that they have 1,000 reasons or 1,000 items to list why they picked this place. Absolutely correct. It's very nice what they do and it's very commendable. The problem is there are issues related to this area that have to be fixed. Once they, with all this enthusiasm, all the fantastic energy, because they finally found the place, okay? And the gentleman that finds this marvel of technology and all that stuff and attracting of people, find to solve two issues. One is the traffic, and one is do we need another hotel in an area that has a lot of failing hotels, okay? But that's their problem, it's their return on investment, we don't care. We just don't want to see it like most of the restaurants.
If they don't return on investment, are they going to
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me, could I,
questions on that? I'd like to get into technical aspects.
could I bring this back to some specific questions?
Yeah, can I ask some specific questions?
Okay, go ahead, you first.
How many parking spaces do we see on that?
Could you identify yourself?
I'm Aaron Kamea. Nice to meet you.
I'm
Aaron,
sorry. Aaron, hi.
how many parking spaces do we see on that level?
About 400.
400? Are there multiple levels of parking?
No, at most, there would be 2. And as
So
you
there's
probably...
800 parking spaces?
Possibly. As you probably know, typical parking levels are approximately 10 feet, minus 2.5-foot depth of structure. So within 20 feet, you can get multiple levels of parking. So right now, as we're looking at it, we've contemplated doing a surface lot. And the way we access it, if you allow me, the lift station is here, right in this corner. Sorry, it's tough to see. The lift station at the upper left-hand corner. There's an that's right. There's an entrance to Museum Park and a surface lot right at in that area. We have thought about entering the parking, and as you can see, the circulation is all internal for parking, for deliveries, and so forth. So
Can I come closer?
Isn't that where the pumping station?
Yeah, that's pumping station.
Very narrow, but then.
How many drive aisles
No,
are
it's
there?
not the pumping station.
1, 2, 3, 5 drive aisles?
Correct.
So more drive aisles than we have on the 395 extension. Why?
Pardon me?
That's more drive aisles wide than we have on the 395 extension.
Because enter, and exit, right? Egress. So,
That looks like a large traffic line.
and we can reverse the flow
Takes away
depending on
the
the
size.
amount of traffic.
Guys, the traffic needs a very deep study because the DDA is contemplating reducing the lanes of Biscayne Boulevard from 4 to 2. So there is a lot in terms of traffic that I'd like us not to get into the weeds of right here, right now.
So we have
Stay
to,
at a high level, understanding what does that mean to your neighborhood in terms of the dynamics of your neighborhood. Today, you are almost the class level of what is considered to be the park west side of Manhattan, those fancy schmancy, nice towers that have it at a calmer level, higher, residential units. Does this, in your mind, fit in with your identity or not? That's where I'd like you to focus for the time being, so that we can talk later on and figure out where we go from here.
So
We
I
don't get into the
would, no, it
details
does
of
not.
the traffic.
It brings additional
not.
tourism and
Okay.
ruins the
Okay.
neighborhood.
Okay, express those concerns.
I mean, it's a lovely building. It is a lovely building. It's an interesting building. I could see it as an iconic part of the skyline elsewhere. Not where we have a very dense concentration of comings and goings, not where we're trying to establish a neighborhood while behind us is a lot of additional construction that will add to the population density and the traffic. And so adding this here, where it could arguably ruin the views, change the views, depends on your point of view, I think it does not add. I think there are other places along the shoreline where it could add, where it would be less arduous to the transportation, where it would be less disruptive to traffic.
I would like to hear all, I will respond to you afterwards. If
So I'd like to
jump in
talk, or ask, my name's Al Crespo, I'm a blogger, I write the Crespo Graham Report. I write about the city of Miami. So I'd like to ask some specific practical questions. You said you spoke to the various city commissioners. Did you provide them with any documentation, any of this information, a site plan and all that?
They've seen it.
They've seen it, or you left it with them?
We haven't left anything.
You have not left
And
anything
I'll
with
tell
them?
you why.
Because it's become a public record.
Not only that, up until 2018 is when we received the panels. So everything was done, we had to keep it very close to the vest. And this has been a long time in the making in terms of the design. It took a long time to come up with this design. So we couldn't share it with anybody. We couldn't leave any documents and result for a handful of people.
Not even architectural renderings? Not even architectural
Couldn't even show
renderings?
anything at the time.
Okay, so that's question number one. Question number two is this. So that slip, the seawall around that slip was paid for with fined money. That's Florida Intercoastal whatever money. It's about $17 million that went into that. What you're talking about, from what I gather, is you're planning on sticking pylons into the water. You're physically going to drill into the water. You're going to build on pylons.
Correct.
And you're going to construct all of this, including the additional park.
Correct.
So you're building a platform that's basically going to cover the slip without filling it in.
Correct.
And
But not
you
entirely.
and you
We will
expect,
leave a substantial amount of perimeter.
and you're expecting to do this and be permitted in 6 months?
We have already had some preliminary conversations.
With
and
whom?
With a number of entities.
Have you spoken to Francisco Garcia with the Planning and Zoning Department
Francisco Garcia saw this project a while back.
a while back? When's the last time he saw it?
He saw it when it was proposed for parcel B.
Well, it was proposed for parcel B.
Correct.
That was a long time ago.
It was about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
Just at the time that we received the package.
So you have to go through a whole process. Durham is going to have to be involved in this process. All of these governmental agencies, this is because it involves federal water as well as state water. All these people, and you expect to do this in 6 months in this city?
We are prepared to obtain the permits in that time. We have our drawings are sufficiently far enough that we would be submitting for our initial permits at that time.
And my last question is this.
Have you done how this will impact the bay and the eco-marine systems?
Preliminary studies and very minimal impact on any marine life that doesn't hardly exist there.
And will you be presenting who has done these studies
Of
and the
course,
results of them?
Of course.
What happens if a sewer pipe bursts?
I have a video 2 days ago.
I want to answer this question. I want to answer, the gentleman asked me a question. He said to me, what about if a pipeline burst? 50 years ago, We went to the moon, we took a guy up to the moon, and we brought him back safely. You're asking me how in the 21st century we're going to have design safeguards that if a pipe bursts, what are we going to do? What happens when a pipe bursts in your house? We have these are technical details that
That there are no solution.
pardon me?
There's no solution.
Absolutely there is a solution.
No.
There's a solution to every single problem. That's what we do.
Sir, I lived in San Diego, California. And every time that the sewer pipe broke, they closed the beaches. So what are you going to do to the bay?
This is a discussion that you can come to my office.
No. I
Sit down
think
and
that
discuss.
all of us have to listen. It's not you and me. It's all of us and you and the government.
I came here to present the concept to you so you understand what we're going to do and to get your input about your concerns. I think a concern about a broken pipe, a sewer pipe, is something that we can handle, and there will be remedies for that, and we will introduce it at the proper time. How we're going to funnel all the pipes through this project.
Let's talk about money. Nobody's talked about money yet.
Yes, sir.
You just can't do this without paying for this to the city. You're going to have to lease this property. Have you discussed this in any detail?
We've had preliminary discussions.
And what?
One of our upfront payments is the construction of these museums to the city, which is an amenity, and the park.
That's
The additional park, the 5 acres, is a substantial component of this project. That we're increasing Museum Park, which is currently about 30 acres, by another 15 to 20% by adding about 5 acres or so.
What happens if we do not want to increase the size of the park? We're happy with the size of the park.
You lost. Oh, you lost me here.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying that you've talked to the city commissioners in the city of Miami?
Yes.
And they are in agreement that they're going to accept payment for allowing you to do this because you're going to put private museums on a piece of property?
That's not what I said. What I said was,
Okay, tell me what you said.
What I said was we're in discussions about what those parameters, financial parameters would be.
And what about
We are
lease
bringing
payments?
a $400 million privately funded project to the city of Miami. We are adding 80,000 square feet of 21st century museum space, a 21st century iconic building, and we're bringing a park that's about 5 acres to the city of Miami.
Have you not heard about Mel Reese Golf Course? Have you not heard about Mel Reese Golf Course and a $1 billion project with a soccer stadium and 1 million square feet of retail and commercial space and a 750 room hotel and a $3.5 million payment, and how people are upset about that because that's not enough money?
We're not putting 1 million square feet anywhere.
You just said whatever it is you're doing, it's a $400 million project.
Let me go over what we're doing. We're adding a park, we're adding the museums.
They are too.
We're bringing the Miami Way. We're not building 1 million square feet of retail.
No, but the people who want to build the soccer stadium are building a soccer stadium and all this other stuff, and they want to pay $3.5 million, and there are a lot of people who are very upset about that and don't think that's anywhere close to the amount of money that property could generate. So you're talking about building a $400 million project on a piece of waterfront property, one of the last piece left, and you're saying we're in preliminary stages and part of our payment's going to be we're going to build museums, and the city and the taxpayers are going to accept private museums as part of a payment for you to allow you to do this?
Mr. Meyer, we have a question here from the mic.
Yeah, so that's
They're not private museums, they're public museums, first of all. Okay.
No, they're private museums. Yeah, you guys are building a museum. It's, the state of Florida is not building a museum. You're building a museum.
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, he's building a museum and leasing it to you.
Have you discussed zoning at all with the city?
No, they haven't discussed zoning.
Triggered by such development? And what are the discussions? prevent sunlight. Is that factored into?
Not necessarily preventing sunlight from hitting the water, there are ways to get around it. We have ongoing planning work, and I'm limited in what I can say about that.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
my name is Marcello Kelly, and I am a resident of downtown. You mentioned that you started working on this project 7 years ago.
Personally.
And of course, you didn't have in mind this particular site, because 6 years ago, Mr. Beckham, as an alternative solution, was considering exactly this site to build his stadium. Most of this discussion is bringing me back to approximately 6 years ago, when the idea of having a stadium in this area was opposed very strongly because of the congestion in traffic and the change
The blockage of the waterfront.
the blockage of the waterfront and everything else. But this is not the point. The Miami Herald reported project in the refield, in addition to the $7 million, it's nothing, peanuts, to be paid to the Marine Authority. That addition, that project would then require approval of federal, state, and other authority. I really congratulate you for your optimism, but that reputable firm estimated that to get all those approvals would have taken something like 5 years. You are talking about a few months. And that's quite a difference. But again, I go back 6 years and I still remember vividly the opposition that the change in downtown Miami of the stadium would have brought, and the way downtown Miami opposed it. When you are talking about 500, 600 rooms, it's fine. But now we are talking about 2 museums that hopefully will attract visitors on a daily basis. We are talking about
The carnival ride that people are going to want.
the Ferris wheel that will attract tourists and so on and so forth. So we are talking about thousands of people on a daily basis. That's what we are talking, and we should face it, and because those are the numbers.
You're referring to this project as the Carnival Ride, is that what you were saying?
Yes.
It's your opinion.
Question.
Entitled to your opinion. I haven't seen a 550-foot tall carnival ride, but you're entitled to your opinion.
We're in Miami, anything's possible.
How many people fit in, is it a gondola?
Correct.
How many people fit in each gondola?
About 15, and each gondola is about 270 square feet.
And how many gondolas are there?
36.
What's the height of the building in floors?
About 31.
31. So they're,
So I can assume that a lot of these waterfront condominiums are gonna start suing the city, because we never assumed that something was gonna build in front of us.
It's not in front of you, it's a quarter of a mile away. It's almost a quarter of a mile away. The buildings behind you that are going to the west of you are just a couple of 100 feet away. And this is approximately 1,200 feet away. So I don't
Yes,
think
but their zoning code let us
comparison.
knew that there were gonna be buildings there.
Sorry?
There would be buildings out in the water.
Right.
There's
Big
nothing on the
difference.
zoning map shows that there's gonna be a building out in the water.
As a matter of fact, that slip is non-zoned at all.
It's because it was
Question,
water.
is this a, unsolicited bid? Is this a response to an RFP that is already
No,
posted
it's
on
not
the
a
city?
response to an RFP.
It is not. So I know that the city had the RFP out there for quite a while. There were no responses to it, but it was for the surrounding part of that slip. If there's no zoning and there's no full
other than two museums, a couple of people are gonna visit once in a while? That's what it is?
We are in discussions as we speak.
How stupid is our city? We can't believe it. Prime waterfront for a couple of museums. I mean, this is
Go
unbelievable.
ahead, please.
Respectfully, the reason that we are here today, and you guys are very good and very creative and very inquisitive, and you have a lot of good questions. Nobody is asserting or minimizing the panoply of obstacles that exist to this project. Whether it eventually gets done or not, we will see. There's a process. This is a democracy. As important and as influential as your organization is, it's one of many in this community. And there will be a process, a democratic process. There may be a referendum. There will be a legal process. No one here is betting necessarily or giving the percentage odds of prevailing or not prevailing on this project. We're here to share with you our vision, to hopefully awaken in you some support for the benefits that this project could bring to this area, obviously carefully weighed against the consequences. We're not here necessarily to examine every single aspect of the legal, legislative, democratic, political process that will be involved here, which we all recognize is formidable. So I mean, let's talk about, you know, your concerns, how it will affect you, rather than trying to delve into what the fiscal impact is and to the city and the regulatory impact and how many environmental agencies will have to deal with or not, and the nuances of whether fine, funded, this is not what we're here for. We're here, those are things we can talk about with the agencies and with the cities, and there will be public hearings involved in that process, and you guys can participate in those. Here we're talking about your concerns, benefits and costs.
Let me be clear. All of these little details we're talking about involve public protections that are there because of the kinds of things that you're.
And we're aware of those.
Okay, and that's because they all have a major consequence on the quality of life of the people who live here, who pay taxes here, as well as other public facilities, including the environment and aspects of, you know, what our city is. So this is asking those questions is a way to get details that everything is in discussion, under consideration for the patent office. And yet, you know, Haskell has said publicly that they want to get a resolution from the city in March to use that slip and authorize a long-term lease of public land, public waterfront land, within 3 months, while all these other discussions are somewhere are in process. Okay, so these are all elements of what is actually contemplated to happen, which is what these people are going to have to live with.
The process will begin in March, Sam. We're not sure, we're not saying, we hope we get a resolution that same day that resolves all these issues. That's probably not gonna happen.
No, but this question of using the public land, public waterfront land, what Mr. Crespo was talking about is, you know, not just the fiscal impact. There is a city charter provision that requires any public land that is leased to a private entity to have a competitive bidding process, to have independent appraisals, the waterfront to have a referendum. I mean, it's supposed to be very rigorous. Now, the fact that the city officials don't always necessarily follow that is one of the tragic realities of the community we live in, but that's why the public is here to demand that their rights be enforced. But you need to come clean with what it is you really think is going to happen there, what you think you're entitled to. Because if people are telling you that putting up 2 private museums obviates your need to comply with the charter, that's a real big problem. That's a real big issue. We should know if that's where you think you're going.
Well, the 2 big museums that are being proposed, I assume I know a lot more than I appear to know. You can make a mistake. Just look at the curious. I get the purpose of putting up the 2 museums. Okay, so put up a museum for the Spanish-speaking people, the Cuban people. If I don't want the wheel of the hotel, I'm anti-Cuban. And if I put up a black museum, if I don't like the wheel, I don't like the black museum. So I get where you're going with this whole thing. I understand the wheel. I understand the wheel according, you know, because I'm listening to you. I understand the wheel much better than you think I would, because I was involved with a group that was building a wheel in New York City. Right. That had finance. Everything was.
That's the wheel.
Okay. I don't believe you're spending $400 million
to build a hotel and that wheel and 2 museums and build it, by the way, on top of water. I don't think that number is realistic. I put it
You think
differently.
it's low or high?
I think it's extremely low, extremely. Because I understand the cost of the steel to build the wheel itself. So, all of these people, I think if you asked everybody who came here to see what the community reaction was, and certainly this is a pretty small showing of the community by any stretch of the imagination, I think that it would be, from just my listening, you could glean that the community is wildly against whatever you are proposing. I mean, based on this community, this community of people in this room.
Just in terms of where you're locating it, not the structure, not the
Oh, we
museums,
understand, and that's-
just where it is. This is a residential area
That's fair.
that has become more congested, more populated. We now have a new hotel condo to the west of us.
As most urban downtowns are, correct?
Well, there's
Yes.
also, I don't know if you were at the, well, I don't think any of you were, maybe Sam, you were, but I'm not sure if you were there. You know, there's another Ferris wheel that's been approved.
Yes, much smaller than this.
Much,
Bayside.
exactly.
And that may or may not ever be built.
This may or may
You
not,
know
but we're
something,
gonna live with it.
I respectfully, I'm 73 years of age, your project will never be built in my life either, but I applaud your, yes.
And hopefully with a long time.
Standing
Yeah,
out,
your
giving it-
vision.
Still
Give it a
not
try. So,
Not
the only thing which I think you can glean from this community, and I don't know, there are a lot of people here that know me, because I bounce around here quite a bit.
What is your name?
Alan Schwartz. So,
Are you
I would say-
associated
I would
with
s-
the wheel in Staten Island?
I
Is that the
was
wheel
associated with the File family who were participating in putting up the cash board
For the Staten Island wheel?
for the Brooklyn wheel. There was a wheel going up in Brooklyn at the base of a, what do you call it, an outlet mall, okay?
And that was just.
I know this
Paul
may
Street
be also
Drive.
hard for you to believe, but if I were to tell you that I represent, I'm a lawyer, and I represent the vast majority of the major office buildings in the city of New York. Trillions of dollars in assets, very unusual law firm. So, I understand this, and I think that this community is against your wheel. I think it's against the idea of building it on top of that water. I would imagine, although I don't know, the owners of the American Airlines Arena, I doubt they're going to be on your side. So, for myself, and I could say I speak on behalf of, I'll make it fast, 1,000 units that are located across the street from the project. That, I haven't gotten involved yet, that you're going to have a tough time doing it. I'm guessing the smartest person in Miami when it comes to this study, the smartest man in Miami about it. Whether this is ever going to get done, sitting right there, Sam, make no doubt. And I'm pretty sure he's on the don't build it side, but I don't know. If you're representing the okay, well, yes. But
I had a question, sir.
I think you have a long time.
I think Miami, hi, I'm David. I moved here about 20 years ago from Vancouver, Canada, where we have beautiful, beautiful, incredible world-class parks. And it's so disappointing in Miami that we have probably the least amount of parks per capita of residents. And it's a sad history that this waterfront space, with the concept was to have a waterfront park from the Miami River to 395. And then it's been piecemealed away. American Airlines Arena was a travesty. You know, they just keep building and building, and it seems to be like a land grab. There's been so many proposals that this park is always under threat. Like, let's build a stadium. Let's build a Marlins Stadium. Let's build a soccer stadium. Let's build a marina. Let's build some restaurants. Why can't we just have a park?
Exactly.
And is it really appropriate to put this in a park, you know, and then have a 5-lane highway to get cutting through the park? You know, I don't know. I just think it's sad people don't fight to get green space.
And that's why we're here to fight for it.
You mentioned the African American Museum. Now, we understand that they're going to try to do Ultra down here and take $1 million that Ultra's paying the city for the African American Museum on Virginia Key. So, is there going to be an African American Museum on Virginia Key and downtown? How do you reconcile two African American museums?
It is my understanding, as of recently, that this will be the first museum, African American History Museum, in the city center. I'm not sure what is the status of the African American Museum on Virginia Keys.
I think funding, or lack thereof, has been an obstacle to developing, opening, inaugurating the Virginia Key Museum. I mean, the obvious attraction here to the museums is that they will be funded, which is more than we can say up until now from our journey, our exploring available public and private sources of funding. Here we have located a private source of funding, which is very attractive. Now, you know, let 1,000 flowers bloom. Why does there have to be one Cuban and one African museum in Miami-Dade County? I mean, how many Jewish museums are there on Miami Beach alone?
Bad way to go. Bad statement to make.
No,
don't make a statement like that. That is the most ridiculous statement you could make.
Mr. Schwartz.
No, don't go down the road of that there are enough Jewish places that you can build a couple of black places or a couple of Cuban places. Don't go down that road. I said, do not go down that road.
Guys, I'd like to be respectful.
How dare you?
No, you misunderstood.
No, I listen to me. I'm not an ignorant person. I listen to what you had to say. I'm not going to be shouted down by you. You're going to lose this argument. You will not make any headway. Do not bring up Jewish people in this conversation. Do not do it. Don't do it.
Let me speak. You spoke.
No, I'm not going to listen.
Guys,
I arranged for this meeting. I'm not going to have you come here and say there's enough Jews that have enough places around down here. Don't walk down that road. Stay. Then build a big Jewish synagogue, okay? Knock out the wheel and build the biggest Jewish synagogue south of New York City. Why didn't you try that? And I personally will put up $10 million. How's that?
I would be in favor.
guys, I thank you all for coming. I'd like to stop this now because I know that this is no longer heading in anywhere, in any shape or form, into an educational forum anymore.
Actually, I would like to say, I think it's obvious.
It is obvious. It is obvious. And this meeting is intended initially to educate us more so that we can learn about it and figure out where we go from here. So, Mr. Meyer, your project is amazing. No one is gonna, deny that. The locale of where you have a vision to put it is not, unfortunately.
Yes.
We are transparent about it. We're not gonna be, trying to lure you into thinking any differently. We would have supported it if this was placed in a location where it truly needs to highlight the beauty of it as well as attract, an audience to it. This is not the place for it. So where do we go from here? Unfortunately, we as a community, we need to huddle and figure out where we go from here because, you're not going to see us, being marching as fans, unfortunately. If you ever consider other locales that will not disturb other neighborhoods and communities, we would gladly, extend this dialogue. And with that, I thank you for attending.
I appreciate your dialogue. I appreciate all of